Heavy Rain, obviously you win the story. The story is this game, basically.
Right.
And what kind of work goes into creating a game that is scene for scene, dialogue, pushing the narrative forward? It's obviously entirely different from creating another game.
It's a very hard work, especially because there are no rules for this type of games. There is no drama. There were very few references in the interactive environment and interactive industry we could refer to. If you work on a shooter, there are so many shooters out there that you can refer to them and know where you're better, where you're worse. But here in this thing, we had more references in the movie industry to try to guess, is it a good story? Are these characters believable? Will anybody guess who the killer is before the right moment? All these things. So these were our real references, real questions. So that was a big challenge. The other challenge was, of course, the amount of work that was involved. It's really a year in writing, and it's also about having a left brain and a right brain at the same time. You want to be creative and have ideas and think of your characters and the emotions, but at the same time you need to be very organized as a writer to keep track of all the conditions, all the variables of the variations of the story actually, and try to make sure that no matter how many branches or variations you create, they are all of the same quality. There's not a good branch and a bad branch in the matter of storytelling. So that were some of the challenges.
Now, almost 2 years ago now, you came to London to give a demonstration of the game an expedition called the Eurogame Expedition.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. You told the crowd of one of your experiences during a research trip. You went to America, and I believe you went to the house of a family who just lost a member, and you were telling us such a horrible experience this was. Now that Heavy Rain's out and it's sold a lot and it's been a critical success, do you have any regrets making the project in terms of things like that?
There is something weird when you're a writer, is that everything you leave may end up in one of your stories one day. The good things, the bad things, the great moments, the bad moments. And this is what being a writer is, I think. It's not about imagining things, and it's just about absorbing reality and change it, transform it, and create another story from it. So I have no regrets. I thought, when I was in this house, I was incredibly depressed and uncomfortable, of course. And I thought, if I can just have 1% of what I feel here in my story, it's going to be a great game. And honestly, I think this is what happened.
There were meant to be 5 pieces, maybe not 5, but of DLC called was it the Heavy Rain Chronicles? We only got to see one of those in the end. Where would the other pieces have taken us, do you think? And is there any chance we could still see them?
We had to make choices with Sony about what we would do next, and they chose to develop the move version of Heavy Rain, and I can understand the choice. As a storyteller, would have loved to have the possibility to tell the backstories of my characters that were written since day one, before the script. I knew where they came from and why they were who they were. You can never say it never will happen. I don't know. It may happen at some point.
So, were you getting nervous?
Oh, be careful.
No order right until the end?
But there's no plan, there's nothing in development right now about this. We work on the next projects.
One of the pieces I remember before you put the game out, you were saying we were going to be able to play as Shelby, as the Origami Killer. This is obviously going to be a highlight of the DLC. What would we have had to do in that DLC?
I still keep hope that one day we'll release this Chronicles.
Do you reckon maybe it could make a sort of prequel?
I wanted to tell you how we became the Origami Killer.
And looking past Heavy Rain, you've said numerous times you don't want to do a sequel or anything like that, and I totally agree. I think that's the right decision to make. But when you do come to make your next game, is it going to take the same template as Heavy Rain? You said you want to make different experiences, but could it, in terms of a control scheme, would it relate to Heavy Rain?
No, we want to be pioneers. We want to explore new grounds, and the best way to do this is not to say, "Oh, it was so cool on the last game. Let's do the same thing." There are some lessons from Heavy Rain of things that work very well. We are not going to change what worked very well, but we are going to see if we can find a better answer, if we can find another solution. And I think it's fair to challenge yourself on your next game, especially because it's a different experience, it's a different story, different world. Let's consider the interface not as something static, but something that can be entirely changed to fit the experience you want to create. So it's a difficult thing to do, because once you found something, you spend so much time and energy finding this thing that it's always difficult to say, okay, let's try something else. But we'll see where we're going to get. Working hard on this.
And if you were pushed to make a Heavy Rain 2, I mean, you must have some semblance in your mind of how it could go somewhere.
Sony is a very good publisher, and they're clever enough to know that pushing us to do something is not the best idea. But what I would have done probably is keep the city and tell another story with 4 other characters, and just keep the background, the city as the main character, as we did on Heavy Rain, and keep the rain, keep the environments, and tell other stories of other people. That's what I would have done.
That will